A great way to describe Metrix is to begin by explaining who uses Metrix. Metrix is different things to different people in the organization, but I'm going to start near the beginning of a typical workflow. First, Metrix is a really helpful tool for an estimator. Let's take a look. Here's a pretty typical project. Estimator wanting to produce 45,000 tickets. These are going to be produced 2026 on the Speedmaster 102 sheet-wise. Metrix very quickly returns a result of 11,250 sheets. Now the estimator looks at the content, maybe a PDF file, and says, there's actually no image near the bottom of the sheet. I wonder if I can get a better result, a better estimate. Changes the dimensions. Metrix immediately comes back and says we can actually drop that to 9,000 sheets. A huge step forward for the estimator trying to produce a really sharp estimate. Here's a project that's a little more complicated. I'd like to do an estimate for a product with 11,000 flat cards and 6,000 brochures. I want to find the very best way to do this. I'm going to use a different mechanism here and give Metrix multiple ways of working the project. Going to offer multiple presses that are available or that might be available later. And going to give Metrix different sheet sizes. I can select individuals. I can select them all. I can order some stock for this project. Metrix very quickly calculates and comes back with a best case result based on cost. Metrix does give me other options, and I could certainly sort through them and pick one, but I'm after the sharpest estimate I can, so I'm going to choose what I believe is, and what Metrix confirms for me, the most cost-effective solution. Using Metrix alongside my estimating tool, I've now got a really great idea of how to estimate it. So I'm going to save this project into the database. I save it into the database, and I change it to a type of estimate so that a job planner can pick it up later. Let's take a look at that person's role next. A day later, the estimate has become a job. So the job planner looks for the Metrix project, flagged with a type of estimate, opens it, looking at the job ticket has realized that the customer has changed the quantity of one of the products to 13,000. We've also noticed that the stock we had expected to run isn't available, so we need to change it. Pretty substantial change, and yet very quickly Metrix comes back with a best case scenario, instant and trustworthy. Now because it's destined for production at this point, the job planner goes and adds dimensions to it. These help with the diagrams we're about to produce. We can add a couple, we can add a lot to it, and reposition them where necessary. Job planner now goes and adds marks. These are pulled from the database where it's filtered against the current press and working style, and even filters against the current colors in the project to make sure we have the right mark set. Next, the job planner goes and produces some diagram reports. These are stuck in the job bag and become extremely helpful for everyone that's going to see this project onwards. We can zoom in here and see what the projects look like, the quantities, the overs, press information, etc. They make fantastic diagrams. No more hand-drawn diagrams. The project is now changed from an estimate type project to a production project and saved into the Metrix database. Work that used to take a long time, tedious, inconsistent, now takes mere moments in Metrix, and it's trustworthy. By this stage, pre-press should have very little to do. They might open a project up, find that project in the database, and make changes to it, hopefully minor changes, such as things like taking a color bar and changing it to a different type of color bar. Typically, though, the main involvement from pre-press is to take this project and export it from Metrix now directly into pre-press, and that's typically done as a JDF imposition. Could be a fully imposed PDF file, and we can also send data out directly to cutting equipment, folding equipment, and even bindery equipment in some cases. I'm going to make an important point here. As soon as the discussion turns to exporting JDF impositions and imposed PDF files, it can be easy for people with a pre-press oriented mindset to confuse Metrix with traditional desktop imposition software. Let me say that as much as Metrix can and does replace such software, it's decidedly much more. Let me illustrate. Let's take a look at a fairly complicated project. Different quantities, different sizes. I need a job plan produced, not just an imposition. I want someone to think this project through. Metrix takes a run at it, finds a solution for us. I can then look at the costs associated with this, try different solutions, change a sheet size to something else. Ask Metrix again. I get a brand new layout virtually instantly. I could then even tweak the results a little bit. I could then try a very different approach. I'd like to take a run at this project by asking different questions. Going to ask Metrix, what if I had different ways that I could work the project, different presses available, and maybe even different sheet sizes. I'm effectively asking Metrix to think of lots of different solutions. Metrix then very quickly gives me solutions based on real production costs. I choose the appropriate one and I'm done. How is this possible, and what makes this so different than the experience typically found with desktop imposition software? A lot of it comes down to the database. Let's go take a look. In the database, there's actual production equipment. You set up your presses. There's characteristics of your equipment in here. It's physical constraints and requirements. And also, very importantly, costs associated with that equipment. The hourly rate of the press, running speed, make-ready hours, cost per plates. Information that helps us know, along with the stock costs, what the cost of every layout should be. The power behind Metrix is this great combination of powerful fitting algorithms and real production costs, not simply the ability of imposition software to fit items on a sheet. Let's take a look next at how Metrix can plan work that's more standardized, in contrast to the projects I've shown you so far, which have required our creative fitting algorithms. Other solutions handle this type of work using templates. In contrast, Metrix uses standard layouts, and there's a big difference. Let's take a look at this project here. Simply using our fitting algorithms, Metrix creates a solution, but now leaves us with a choice. In contrast, I'm going to ask Metrix to find, if possible, a standard in the database, which it does. What's important to understand here is this is not a system of possible choices. Metrix either finds the single available standard or nothing, no middle ground. Let's take a look at the 16 pagers. Again, Metrix finds the standard and applies it to them. Let's take a look at another example, an 8.5 by 11 item on a pretty standardized sheet, 2538. We look, and Metrix finds a standard. If anything changes, like the sheet size down to a 1925, we do a search, cross our fingers, and Metrix found a standard. Now, if I should ever choose something for which there is no standard found, let's go up to a larger sheet size. We do a search, and Metrix says, no, there's no standard. In this case, we fall back to the auto layout algorithm. Ask Metrix to come up with a brand new layout. There it is. And if I like the results of that, I'll quite likely save this layout as a standard in the database so other users can pick it up in the future. One of the hallmarks of Metrix is its incredible ease of use. Take this 8-pager in a saddle stitch book. If I want to change its structure, I just click it, grab it, and drag it. I've just restructured my entire book. Looking at the 8-pager, totally different pages on it now. Big change, simple to do. Let's take that 8-pager and let's fold it differently. We just look in the Metrix database, change it from a right angle fold to a long fold. Instantly, we see the results. I've now got an asymmetrically folded signature. Now, of course, I've changed the imposition as a result. So to deal with that, I just very quickly click, change it to a work and tumble layout, ask Metrix for a standard layout. There's one there, and the book has been restructured. Really significant change is done incredibly easily. Let's say I'd like to apply shingling to this book. I've got an odd signature in here, but Metrix knows how to deal with that. We just select the project and ask Metrix to apply shingling to it automatically. Metrix figures out the shingling for the entire project and applies it to all the pages in the appropriate way. If pages shouldn't be shingled, like some of the pages in that signature there, Metrix turns them off automatically. If I change the structure of the book, Metrix again knows how to deal with that and changes the pages. Basically, you just tell Metrix how you'd like it manufactured and let us worry about the details like shingling and collation marks and so forth. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with some thoughts from existing Metrix customers.